First I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong, and I know how to stay alive. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal cinema, and then we sit in the parking lot afterwards. We talk about it in Matt's Honda Pilot. We discuss such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you wait for streaming? Should you see it in theaters? Should you not see it at all? How did we personally feel about the movie? Did it make us angry? Did it make us happy? Did it make us sad? Did it make us laugh? We try to discuss all these things and give you all the answers you could ever possibly want about this specific movie, except for spoilers. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, welcome to this latest episode of our podcast.
It's going to be a doozy.
It's going to be a doozy, yes. We saw a movie tonight called Mack and Rita.
Yes.
This movie has Diane Keaton in it.
Yes.
And the vet from Schitt's Creek is in it.
I haven't even finished season 1, so I'm not sure. And the voice of Martin Short.
Well, the vet from Schitt's Creek, Jack, in this movie.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, that's all the famous people.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the vet from Schitt's Creek's name, so
Yeah.
how famous is he really?
Yeah, there was one of the older lady wine club women, the mother of the friend. I don't know her name, and I'm not going to look it up, but I'll give her a little bit of a shout out. She's been in a ton of stuff. I've noticed her over the years. A lot of television, a lot of movies. Not a super high name celebrity, but I would say in the realm of just credits on her IMDb, I would say that I'll give a tiny shout out.
Right. Tiny shout out given to unnamed matriarchal character.
One of those people that, like, when you see, you're like, oh yeah, that woman. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, I'm stifling a yawn.
The yawn is not a good indication of you going into the description of the movie.
What is this movie about? Well, it's about a 30-year-old woman who really likes a lot of the aspects of being old.
Yeah.
And from fashion to speaking your mind to doing what you want, etc. And she decides to go to this weird past life regression thing. And she's transformed into the body of an old woman.
Specifically Diane Keaton.
Yes. And then the wacky fun ensues from there of how a 30-year-old lives as a 70-year-old body.
Yeah, you could probably guess the things that happen in this movie, and whatever you're thinking right now when I say this sentence, you're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, she finds herself and figures out life and becomes an Instagram influencer. You know, you were probably thinking about that.
Yeah.
And then she has to decide if she really wants to stay in an old body or go back to her normal 30-year-old self. And how could she do that? She can't find the guy who past life regressed her. Oh, but then she does, and then she transforms back. I don't think that's a spoiler.
No. I think if you could predict the most stereotypical way for this movie to progress and end, then you are right on the money.
Right. And yeah, I think that's really all you need to know about this movie.
Yeah, that should tell you enough.
Yes. So, Todd, Mack, and Rita, How do you feel?
Well, so I'll say this. When you proposed this movie, I had never seen a trailer or anything like that. And it was like our only option to catch a movie tonight, pretty much. So, of course we were going to do it. And I thought about watching a trailer before I came, but I was like, no. I'm just going to go into it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm almost glad I did that, because if I had seen the trailer, I might have just created an excuse for us to not do this tonight. There's a lot of bad things about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And just the... So, okay. I will get, I guess, some good things. I'm using air quotations. Good things out of the way.
Yes.
Some okay acting. Like, I don't think I could go beyond okay in that description.
Okay.
It's just kind of there. Like, no stellar performances, but I'll mark that as a plus because it's okay. Like, it'd be worse if it was really bad acting, but nothing blows you out of the water, but at least you're not, like, sitting there like, this is the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. I don't know. That might be the only kind of okay thing I could say about it. Well, and it's important to state before we really get into how we feel about this movie. This movie is not for us. Like, it is not for men. Period. Like, at all. It is. Wow. It's the biggest paint by numbers movie I think we've seen in a long time at this point. Just anything you can think of that should fit into this movie that would make it stereotypical, boom, it's there. And it kind of circles the drain through the movie and becomes a Flintstones episode of like, oh no, the main person's got to be in two places at once. Will she choose her friend or will she choose her influencer life or whatever? And we can all guess how that happens. It doesn't turn out well. So, like, it just was not good. But there's some specific things I have a problem with this movie. One, this movie, and I don't even think it was that long, maybe an hour and 45 or something like that. And an hour and 30 of that, maybe an hour and 20 of that is Diane Keaton just fumbling around in this movie. Like, fumbling over her talking, fumbling over walking, and that's not like, I'm not making fun of her because she's older. That's how Diane Keaton acts, and here it is on display, and it's just like, I got so tired of it so fast, of her just like, and when I say fumbling over, that is exactly what I mean. Fumbling over her talking. It's like she's delivering lines, but it's like she can't close her mouth, and it just keeps going and blah, blah, blah. And then for some reason, she's just all over the place when she walks, and her hands are going all over the place while she's talking, and it's just like, okay, like, wow. And I never noticed this until I saw this movie, and I pointed out to you in the theaters that she has freakishly long fingers. It just makes me think of those alien hands that you can buy where the fingers are so long, and it really kind of freaked me out a little bit while I was watching the movie. And maybe my mind was like, all right, this isn't for you, this is boring to you, focus on something else. And for some reason it was the fingers of Diane Keaton that was there. So, this movie. So, and I think like we've said this in several movies we've watched recently, but there is no one to root for in this movie. Like, because starting off the bat, like, they try to create this quirky character of this main protagonist who, I'm an old soul trapped in a 30-year-old's body, and if I could just be who I wanted to be and wear what I wanted to be, or wear what I want to wear and all this kind of stuff, my life would be better, but I can't because it's not cool, it's not hip. I wish I was retired, even though I have a job where I don't have to do anything but post on social media and I get money from that. I have the easiest job in the world. Like, it just was like, it's one complaint after another that you're like, wow. And no one works in this movie. Like, even the love interest is a 30-something-year-old person who handles wealthy people's money. Like, I can't remember how he described it. A successful money manager, I guess he said.
wealth
manager.
Something.
And it was like independently wealth manager, so I guess he just handles rich kids' money and stuff like that. And no one works. Like, everyone just was like, all right, I'm going to complain so much about my life, but I've got the easiest life in the world. My apartment is so big and huge and so nice, and I can't be the old woman I want to be. So, of course, I go to this place, and I just want to be this old woman. And then, boom, Diane Keaton pops out. Mm-hmm. And then it's however simplistic storytelling we can get through, there it is. So, there's really not many or really any good things to say about this movie. Anytime I chuckled, I felt like it was a pity chuckle. Like it was like my body was reacting to the fact that I was like, well, none of this is actually funny. So let me just force out this thing to make, I don't know, for myself, for the movie, for you. I don't know what my body was thinking. So, yeah. Unless you are a 30-something-year-old woman who feels like you're an old soul and yeah, maybe this movie's for you. Or if you're an older gal who wants to see Diane Keaton kiss and presumably, who knows, maybe hook up with a 30-year-old, like, well, then this movie's kind of for you too. Like those are the two people this movie's for. So it's not good. It's real bad, and it kind of is, in my opinion, a stain on Diane Keaton's career. Of like, maybe just think it through before you do movies like this, and I don't know, someone's passion project. I feel bad because this was someone's.
She produced this movie.
Yeah, I guess this was. I don't know. This was someone's love project, and I'm crapping all over it. But that's what I do here. If you want to make a love project and you want to make a movie, then make it good. And it's not just because it wasn't for us. This movie's not good. There was absolutely no deep storytelling. There was no surprises. There was nothing. It was bland. It was white people, white problems. Like, I feel these problems with me, but as far as every other aspect of my life, where I live, wealth, all this kind of stuff, it's all taken care of. So theoretically, I should have no reason to complain, but I'm going to create a reason to complain about my life, which is I'm an old person stuck in a young person's body. Oh, and I can't be myself and empower women. It just was not hitting on any kind of good level. It just was whining. It just was complaining. The whole movie is complaining and whining. And, that sucks. So those are my feelings about this movie, which there was only one other person in the theater.
There were two.
Was it two? Okay. I only
showed
noticed
up late.
I only noticed the woman walk in, and my first thought was like, what is she thinking about two guys seeing this movie? So, yeah.
You mean two pros seeing the movie?
Yeah, I want to almost like wear a shirt that says I'm doing a podcast when I see these kind of movies. Just to justify why I'm there. But, so that's me. I cannot say go see this movie. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the money you would pay. If it comes on a free streaming service and you want to have a date night and your girl is really into this movie, or you're a guy who's really into this movie, then it's for you. But I cannot say spend money on this movie. It is totally not worth any kind of money spent. Whew, that's me. Matt?
Well, I feel like we're of one accord with this particular movie. But I'll cover some ground that you did not cover.
Please do.
So, yes, you are totally right when you say that this movie is... Holy crap, what is going on?
I don't know.
I think
Home Depot just exploded.
Yeah, I think it's falling down over there. That's wild.
Still going.
Well, anyway, you're right. This movie is not for us. But I think a big flaw in the movie is I don't know who this movie was for.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned like two categories. Like maybe it's for 30-year-old women or maybe it's for older women. But they don't do a good job of, I think, catering to each other. They get caught in the middle somewhere. and like I don't know that anyone really has a good experience watching this and like is like, oh, I see myself in
Right.
this.
Well, and for a movie that's like empower yourself to be yourself, it goes out of its way to crap on the two like kind of like friends who are like all about taking pictures and Instagram and that's their life and stuff like that. Like they painted those two girls as super dumb and super not good people or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, you're making a movie where you want people to be you want women to feel empowered to be yourselves, but you're going to crap on these two women. Like, okay, figure yourself out before you make a movie.
Yeah. So that's the first problem for me is like, I don't know who the audience is supposed to be. There's stuff in here for like younger women, okay. And then there's like these old people.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a mishmash between the two. It's not consistent. It's not a consistent.
There's like a nice 30-year gap. If
Right.
you're 30, great. If you're 60 to 70, great. If you're in the middle, not a whole lot there.
Right. My other problem is that the 30-year-old actress, not Diane Keaton, but
Sure.
is not good.
Yeah.
She had her struggles and
Yeah.
is not a good actress. She's an attractive woman, but she's not good in this movie at acting. And I feel like they could have done better. But maybe, I don't know.
I feel like what might have been a hindrance for her, and who knows, but I feel like the hindrance is they were asking her to be Diane Keaton. Like,
Right.
so, you've got to be like fumbling over your words all the time, and you got big hand gestures, and like all this, like you got to be Diane Keaton,
Right.
which is probably a task within itself.
Yeah, could be. And okay, so the other thing that I'll say about this movie is I found myself hating the movie for probably the first 2/3 of the movie. I just hated it. I was like, I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know why this matters. I don't know what is going on. And then I got to a certain point in the movie and I just, for a few minutes, I was like, oh, I really got sucked in there for a minute. I really enjoyed myself for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then it was back to a terrible ending. But just for a moment, I was like, oh, I really cared for what's going to happen for a few minutes. And then I stopped caring.
Yeah.
But, so there's a little bit of a highlight. I don't know. What else good can I say about this movie? It has a nice, diverse cast.
You are scraping the bottom of the barrel if you're saying that. For 5 minutes, this movie entertained me.
Yes.
And then it lost me.
Yeah. You've got Martin Short as a drug-induced dog talking. I don't know.
Yeah. And that whole scene of in the movie, Diane Keaton's character takes mushrooms.
Right.
In an attempt to somehow psychedelically change herself back or whatever.
Right.
And so that whole sequence plays as cringeworthy as you think it would. It's
Right.
just not funny. It's like them just saying, okay, Diane, pretend like you're whacked out on shrooms and dance or something like that. It was really bad. Like it was uncomfortable to sit through for me because I was like, ugh.
No, I agree with that.
Ugh.
It was not pleasant. It was not fun. It was not lighthearted. It was just awkward.
Yeah.
It was Diane Keaton fumbling around,
Yeah.
pretending to be on drugs.
Yeah.
So extra fumbling.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to say about this movie. It wasn't good. You shouldn't see it. Don't bother.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to say about it, except for those 5 or 10 minutes. It's terrible.
I mean, if we're to go by our rating systems of when we're in there, I heard a lot of sighing from you.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of head rubbing from me.
Yeah.
And my soda ran out within 20 minutes of the movie started.
Yeah.
So
these are bad metrics for ratings.
Anywho. So Matt, what would you give this movie? What am I gonna do for a rating system here? How many drunken old ladies would you give this movie? 0 being the worst, because then there's no drunken old ladies, and then 5 being the best, because then I guess then you got yourself a party.
Right. Of course.
And that's coming from the fact that there is a wine club of older ladies. Oh, Home Depot's exploding again.
I don't know.
There is a wine club of old ladies who say they meet once a day, sometimes twice a day, and there's a lot of drinking when they're all together.
Yes.
So nothing gets too wild, but there's a lot of drinking.
Yes. Well, I'm going to keep it simple, Todd, and I'm going to say that I'm going to give this movie 1 drunken old lady out of 5. She's drinking alone and she's sad.
So it's sad.
And
it's not
you should
fun.
be too.
It's not.
So yes, 1. That's where I land.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not too far off. I'm at a 0.7.
Okay.
I don't even get a full drinking lady. Just a shell of herself drinking lady, and everything's sad, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, that's too much. Stop drinking. You still got some life left in you. Like, go out and live a little bit. But no, she just keeps drinking. And it's like, oh,
Gosh, indeed.
Yeah.
Well.
So one of the biggest things I had a problem with this movie is that several times in the movie, the main character complains that she just wished she was like a retired old lady and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wish I was too.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But she has all she does is lay around in her apartment all day and like post pictures every once in a while. She's got a calendar up in front of her desk that like every 3 days it says post picture of this or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's her job. And I'm like, you basically are retired. Like,
right.
you're just like, you're kind of living the dream, and yet you still find something to complain about.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, it wasn't really that she wanted to be retired. She just wanted to know who she was.
She wanted to eat pancakes in the middle of the day with friends and no one judge her about it.
Yes.
Something like that.
And have extra crispy bacon.
Extra crispy bacon, which is apparently super important to her.
Right.
And the last thing I'll share about this movie that
Yes.
super bothered me, I told you about it when we were walking out
Yes.
of the theater, is that a huge plot point in this movie is that she goes see this guy, regression stuff. She comes out of the pod or whatever. She's Diane Keaton, and the guy's gone.
Right.
She can't find him, so she leaves. The next day she comes back, and his whole tent setup is gone. And it's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to find this guy? I can't find this guy to turn me into not being Diane Keaton.
Right.
And for this day and age, I could understand if you had nothing on that guy, how are you going to find this guy? But the guy charged her credit card.
Yes.
Which is very much a paper trail at that point.
Right.
With a little bit of effort, it would not have been hard.
Right.
But honestly, that aspect of the movie paints women in not a good light, because it was like the two main friends are like, how are we going to do this? I don't know how to find this guy. They don't even think about it. They don't try. Whew. Bad. Ladies, if I were you, I would be upset with this movie.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we saw the movie called Mack and Rita.
Mack and Rita. Do you think her name was short for Mackenzie?
Yes.
Okay. Is that in the movie? Did I just miss that?
It wasn't in the movie. I'm
Okay.
just very strong on that point that I think that is her name.
I was trying to think of what it's short for, and
Yeah.
Mackenzie is the only thing I could come up with.
Right. So we didn't like this movie. We give it an average rating of 0.85 drunken old ladies out of 5, which is exceptionally low.
There's also no resolution to Rita, who signs an exclusive contract with the company to be their brand ambassador,
Yes.
and then just disappears. And they never talk about it.
Right. They don't.
Woo!
So,
All right, we gotta wrap this up because I could
Yes.
just keep going.
You could, but you won't. Instead, we'll say thank you to all of our subscribers and listeners and downloaders, and just keep doing that. We'll keep making these,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.